It's sort of a corollary to these. People believe that if I take a bunch of safe, reliable projects and I add them up, I am going to get a safe, reliable portfolio. And I think that's basically wrong. You can very much get the safest, best portfolio can actually be composed of the riskiest projects, because you care about whether something works in the portfolio, not about whether every project works in the portfolio. So let me give you a quote of example, right? I mean, companies like to play to win. And let me ask whether your company's really playing to win. So here we have two awesome athletes that are just going all out. One of them is going to win and one of them's going to be forgotten, right? But are you actually playing at that level? Now, go back to the perspective of that project leader. What does it take to play at this level? And what are the consequences of losing? See, if you're playing to win, you've actually created the possibility of losing. And many organizations implicitly run on this principle. As this is your proposal, Cosgrove, its failure could mean the end of your career. I think, however, that's an acceptable risk. So there's that idea of promising and safety transfers risk to the individuals who can't really tolerate it. And you want reliability, you want to be able to deliver. So the effective result is that people play not to lose. And I have a little picture here of kids soccer. I used to referee kids soccer, and mostly you spend time tying kids' shoelaces. But that's playing not to lose. And the thing is, everybody gets a trophy. And so many organizations play the everybody gets a trophy game. And so what does that result in terms of a portfolio? So this is again from DuPont. This is a little framework I call the innovation screen. But basically what we're doing is we're plotting the difficulty of a project, easy projects at the top, hard ones at the bottom, against the size if it were successful. Small on the left, big on the right. So let's start with the upper left. These, I call them bread and butters. They're easy and they're small. Most business processes are very good at delivering on these things. Sometimes the harder ones are a little more challenging, but basically these are the everybody gets a trophy prize. They're probably going to succeed, and if they don't succeed, it might actually be the product leader's fault or some kind of screw up. And so with that question about alignment, what you need to align on for bread and butter is really the execution and delivery. Now I'm going to jump over to the lower right. I call these the oysters because you have to open a lot of oysters to get a pearl. These projects are difficult, but if they work, they're big. So these projects, the alignment needs to be on how do you prove them out and doing good work of proving them out. Whether they succeed or fail isn't really the issue. I mean, it's obviously the goal, but if they fail for a good reason, it's not the project leader's fault. You can't put a Cosgrove like that cartoon on these oysters. Now, in the case of DuPont, there's good news and bad news here. They have a lot of oysters. These are the playing to win. And across the entire portfolio, they actually have enough to do very well. The problem is, individually, they mostly fail. So these projects are all about the learning and pivoting. Now, if you take the point of view of an individual line of business, here is a line of business, the light blue one that has 1, 2 oysters. Their most likely outcome is, in fact, that they will both fail. So there's a real dilemma in that business because they don't have enough oysters in that individual area to reliably promise on that. So you've got to sort of separate these and make sure that you can actually win the games that you're going to win, because they won't all be winners. But if you roll that up to the entire portfolio and you look at, this is about 2018, so we're looking at 4-year forecast revenue, and you say, what does it take to win for the company? And this was DuPont Safety and Construction. I think it's now called Water and Safety. And you add up all those bread and butters. They add up to approximately half of the 2022 goals. And so holding people accountable and driving that and whipping those horses harder will get you about halfway. Getting the other halfway comes from getting one of those oysters to work. I call that oyster farming, right? So the portfolio of oysters is much, much safer than any individual oyster. And for the whole corporation, it's a big difference. I only need one out of about 20 or so to actually work to make half my goals. And then the upside in my organization is also coming from the oyster farm. If two of them work, then I can be almost as large as an existing line of business. So they had a bunch of little lines of business in there. But the point is, the ability and the probability of hitting your goal is increased by adding an oyster farm. So that's really the point about safety, is the individual safety tends to produce the mediocrity, and across the portfolio, it's a very huge effect. So what am I saying here? I'm saying well and truly embrace uncertainty. There are some chasms that have to be crossed that cannot be crossed by taking individual steps. You have to leap and you have to manage the uncertainty.